All right, welcome everybody. This is we're calling this The Consultant, thanks to Miriam, who does the behind the scenes magic here, and she said this is going to be like a reality show. So a reality show, but without any of the drama. I want to thank Blake for joining us here. It's something that whenever we do a live webinar, I find that one of the things that I enjoy the most, and I think a lot of people get value from, is the real live interaction, the Q&A that I'm very comfortable doing. Usually at the end, not always, but sometimes in the middle. And I'm actually very comfortable with people coming offline and meaning coming online, turning on their video and audio and actually having a real conversation. And they seem to find that helpful. So it's been on the back of my mind to do that type of thing more often, and maybe we will. Blake reached out to me. I'll read his email a little bit later and what led up to this in a bit. But and it just led me to propose this, and that's why we're here and we're doing this live. And I do anticipate, I'll keep the chat box open here, I do anticipate some valuable input from others. My attitude is always I'm really good at what I do, and I am. But I also do tend to attract other people who are really good at what they do. And if our real interest is in what's best for everybody, then we need to hear some good input from some other good people. If you're new to me, my name is Dovgordon. The Alchemist Entrepreneur is the name of my little boutique coaching business. Our focus is helping consultants, coaches, experts, professional service firms to get their ideal clients consistently. We're not about necessarily big complex funnels. We're generally working with people who are, most of your best clients tend to come from referrals, introductions, people you already know or come to know. And the problem is it's not systematic. And we really help you get to a point where you can focus on a few things that you're doing really well and creating a consistent flow of ideal clients. So I'm not going to go into that very much right now. But if you're on my list, if you're an email subscriber, you probably heard about the two main things that we focus on, which is you, a force to be reckoned with. We've got one more spot, the group that just started, dovgordon.net/force. And for people who are a little beyond that, force multiplier, which is all about becoming the one who naturally causes the results that you want. Now, just as a way of getting started on this session here with myself and Blake, who's down in South Africa, I'm actually in Israel, and you are all around the world. So I just want to share a few ideas that I think are relevant. And one of them is that for the most part, you don't need more information. In my view, what you need is to improve how you think, how you feel, and how you work. And that's true for all of us, no matter what level we're at. If we want to get to that next level, whatever that is, we need to get better. We need to improve our thinking, our feeling, meaning our emotional mastery, and how we work, the things that we do on a day-to-day basis, how we get stuff done or not. And in order to do that, it's not enough to get more and more information. We all need to continue learning, but usually what we really need to do at this point is to more deeply understand things that we already know. In order to do that, we need experiences. We need to get out of our own heads. Blake has a lot to offer. He's got rich experience. So do I, but we all need some help. I need some help. Blake needs some help. Everybody here is here because you're looking for, there's something you're looking for. This isn't one of those train wreck type shows. So we're all here to learn something. Right? We can all offer and contribute. We can also here to learn. So you've got to get out of your own head. And that's really what we're all about. And it's also about distilling it down to what I think of as the critical 10% that makes you look brilliant 90% of the time. There's so many things that we could be doing that we could learn, focus on. That's part of the problem why we're all so overwhelmed. If I distill it down to what I think of as the critical 10% that gives you 90% of what you want, the critical 10% of thinking skills that makes you look brilliant 90% of the time. It really just helps us identify certain the small number of things that are the most important to do right now. And today we're calling this the consultant. All right, and I'm here with Blake, who is like I said, in South Africa, and Blake reached out to me and. The bottom line is we're here to see how we can help Blake get things back on track. Because I think we all go through phases, situations where there's, something shifts in our lives and we need to reorient and kind of get back on our feet. So that's where that is. I'm just going to read the email that Blake shared or sent to me. Um, and hold on a second, because there's I just want to swap this out with the part that I blurred something out. I don't know if you needed me to, but I didn't even ask if you wanted me to, but I did it anyway. What?
I don't mind.
You don't mind? Okay. Well, all right. Well, let's see, because it'll just be easier if people can follow along. For some background here. All right. Okay, so Blake said, this is after a short chat through my website chat. You said, my issue is reasonably simple, but not simple enough that I can seem to crack it. And that is so common, is that very often we can help somebody else with something that we're struggling with ourselves. And, we have so many clients who are really good at marketing and sales. We just finished up the last group of you a force to be reckoned with. We had, I can think of 2 people off the bat who are really good at marketing and sales for other people and have a great track record. They were stuck for themselves. I suspect that's where you are as well. So when we're in our own head, nothing is really simple. So I unwittingly left corporate advertising after 14 years in the Middle East and settled back in South Africa. In the KZN Midlands. I'm not familiar with where that is. Bradley Schmidt, who's on the line. Thank you, Bradley. Recommended you. I've been coming back to your advice consistently and even use your 3 simple questions in my own sales pitch now. Moving from corporate to consultancy has been utterly baffling. Bookkeeping, taxes, invoicing, all new to me. I've started as a copywriter and I moved during my career into branding, advertising, business concepts, marketing strategy, PR, and strategic presentation development. It makes sense for me to continue to earn riyals. That's in Qatar?
Saudi Arabia.
Okay. That's Saudi Arabia? Okay, I thought it was Saudi Arabia, but I don't think you mentioned Saudi Arabia. I guess you had. All right, so you were in Saudi Arabia. Qatar, and they also have riyals there? Yeah. Okay, got it. Rather than rands, but managing the work from the Middle East is tough to pull off, and clients are inconsistent. Locally, I know my ideal client, moneyed SMEs with small and medium enterprises, with messaging and brand problems where I can deal with the owners directly. That said, I have a client I'm working on in culture, another on a website, another on general marketing, and I'm absolutely useless at getting paid what I'm worth. As a result, I'm in a cash flow crunch and not on top of getting the clients I need. I appreciate your values and insight, but having not paid certain important expenses, school fees, I could not warrant the force fees right now. What you spoke about tonight made a lot of sense, but I worry that by narrowing down my simple, compelling message, I will not have a large enough audience to fill the funnel. I've only been in business for 3 months. Things have gone well by most startup standards, but the stresses are great and I need to build a steady income in pretty short order. This is the one that I did successfully blur out. I've been toying with, that's the name of your company, you can share it or not. My consideration for you, of course, is that if someone is searching for your name or your business afterwards, they don't necessarily have to find this. It's fine for us and for those of us learning, but we don't need to, it doesn't have to be something that shows up under your name in the future. Discover your simple truth is kind of message you're thinking about, though I feel it's still broad. The advice I'm looking for is, what is my own simple truth and how do I decide between the somewhat spend-shy local market and the more lucrative GCC, Gulf Cooperation Council, I imagine, market? How do I maximize my earnings potential? And as I wrote in the email I sent out about this yesterday, Blake was not asking for any favors, wasn't asking for any freebies. He wanted to know if there's some, more easily affordable way of getting some help. And I just had this idea because, as I said earlier, I'm thinking about how, look, this live interaction is something that many people find valuable. And from my point of view, it gives people out there in my audience another experience of what it's like to work with me. So it's win-win-win because not everybody's going to be ready at the same time. So Blake, what I'd like to suggest, first of all, anything you want to add, Blake, as to kind of why you're here, what you want to get from this, and I'm going to take some notes.
I guess, the first point is that I'm not really an entrepreneur of my own volition. I started the company that I started sort of out of a lack of other options. My first kind of recourse was to go into advertising again, most likely in the Middle East, because the contracts are large and the money is good and so on. And so I kind of took a 3-month sabbatical, which quickly became a 6-month sabbatical. And then, got onto it and started looking around. I, in fact, finalized a contract in Saudi Arabia, had everything down to the ink on the page, and then, you know, the lady that I was supposed to be supporting in Saudi got fired. The whole thing fell through, and I was kind of left in a bit of a tight spot at the end of last year. So with the support of some fantastic mentors, I've kind of started this fledgling consultancy. It's gone reasonably well, as I mentioned in my mail to you, but you know, it's not something that I've naturally fallen into, and I'm kind of a little bit, you know, adrift at the moment, trying to work out exactly what it is that I'm doing and exactly how I can organize my consultancy to attract more ideal clients and grow my potential.
All right, great. So let's kind of organize. How, if you were to break this down into questions or decisions, what would those be? You know, let's break this down into questions that you have. Like if you could walk away in the next 50 minutes or so and certain questions were answered, what are the questions? And I'm just going to shift this over to my, go on, so we can all see this.
I guess the questions that I would have is how do I, at the moment, because I'm such a generalist, I've worked across multiple disciplines in the agencies that I've done. So I'm as comfortable being in PR as I am in branding, as I am in advertising, as I am in even event planning, other sorts of things. I've done all of these kind of, this wide range of things that falls into, I guess, communication, generally speaking. How would I filter that down to a promise or an offer that can reach a large enough audience and bring in exactly who it is that I need to?
Okay. All right. What other questions?
I guess it would be, you know, would I be better off, and I'm not sure that you'll be able to answer this, but would I be better off pursuing local clients who are somewhat easier to deal with, but probably not going to bring me the same sort of returns? Or do I focus abroad, which is more difficult to handle, but potentially much larger contracts? Do you think I should go after people that I can deal with face-to-face, or should I attempt something, you know, where I'm working remotely or going over there every so often and working with larger organizations?
And what other questions come up?
I guess it would, you know, most of my kind of struggle at the moment would be the amount of admin, the amount of you know, the amount of things that I'm supposed to know. How exactly do I work out what it is that I should be focusing on? You know, the kind of the 80-20 thing. How do I kind of know what I should outsource and what should I keep for myself, and to focus on exactly what it is that I'm doing? You know, I'll give you an example. As a generalist, I've studied a bit of design on my own, and I can quite competently put things together. But I'm not at the level of design that I would consider expert. When I've worked with other designers, other creative directors, I've found there's been something of a clash, because I'm doing their job from the thinking side, and you know, so it's very difficult to put it together in that regard. Other things like a bookkeeper, do I bring on a bookkeeper, or do I just completely, you know, try and learn that myself? And you know, so these are the sorts of questions that I have.
Okay, got it. Anything else come to mind?
I'm sure they will as I go on, but those are the main ones.
So let's start off with this top one, because that's probably the highest leverage, right? How do I distill this down to a clear offer? This is related, the question of pursuing local clients or pursuing you know, overseas clients where they could pay more. Now, let me start with this, right? How much do you want to be earning every year?
I mean, rands are very different to dollars. I guess in dollar terms, you know, $50,000 a year, $60,000 a year would be fantastic. I'm just trying to do the calculations. You know, what I was earning in the Middle East is probably reasonably unrealistic here. You know, that's in the region of 140,000 Rand. The calculations are going to be beyond.
So first thing I want to point out, and I open this up, and this is for everybody. The first thing I want to point out is that I asked you what you want, and you didn't tell me what you want, right? You told
Sorry?
me what I asked you what you want. You didn't tell me what you want. You told me what you think you could have, right?
Yes.
And
What did I say?
that is probably the most common mistake we make in thinking, all right? All of us. It's just the question is what level is it happening? Because we look at our situation, our frustrations, our successes, and our disappointments, and we don't ask what do I want, and then answer with what we actually want. We answer with what we think we can have, and it is so common. And the more we're aware of it, the further we can get, because that's something that's literally it's like putting a ball and chain on your feet. And someone says, "Well, where do you want to go?" And you look down at the ball and chain, and you say, "Well, I guess I could probably manage to get over there." A few feet that way, a few meters that way. But that's not where you want to go. It's just where you think you can get with what you know so far. So the answer has to be, well, I want to get over there. Now, the first thing I might have to figure out is how do I get this damn ball and chain off my feet, right?
But yeah,
Okay. You feel the difference?
absolutely. No, I
So
mean,
what do you,
it's sort of a case of I don't want to plummet into the ocean. I want to kind of manage this consultancy and make a success of it over the first year. And that's certainly, what's attainable, but perhaps not what's possible.
well, so here's how I like to think about it, all right? I think I like to make a distinction between the dream and the fantasy. The dream is what you really want. It's what you know you should be able to achieve. You just don't know how, okay? Think of it, you could think of it in terms of there's let's just say settling for what I know, right? There's kind of settling for what you think you can have. There is the dream, and there's the fantasy. Okay, so fantasy might be I want to work 4 hours a week while lying on the beach, and make $1 million a month, right? You don't actually believe that you can have it. That might be the fantasy. I'm not asking you about fantasy. On the other hand, there's settling for what you think you can have. That we talked about as well. That's looking down at the ball and chain around your feet and saying, okay, and which is the answer that you first gave me. I'm asking about the dream. The dream is what you think you should be able to achieve. You just don't know how. So it's a little further out. It's the only reason why you're considering it realistic or not is because you don't see a clear pathway there. You don't see the how. Am I right or wrong?
Absolutely. Absolutely
So
right.
that's what I'm looking for. Does this clarify?
Yes. I mean,
So you
if
can,
I was to
yeah.
articulate the dream, I guess it would be to be the owner proprietor of a branding agency where I'm doing world-class work for top-notch clients. I mean, that would be it.
Okay. So you want to own or own and run a branding agency doing top-notch work for world-class clients. Okay. All right. Good. How much do you want to be taking home from that? After taxes, after expenses for you, just taking out for you.
I mean, to be honest, I think some part of the obstacles that I face is that I very rarely think in financial terms. I'm financially unambitious, and that's
Nothing
kind of,
wrong with that.
well, it becomes limiting when you have a client that says, I'd like you to do X, and you say, well, it will cost you Y, and then they say, well, Y minus 70%, and oh, whatever, okay, I'll do it. That's always been kind of the way that I've approached freelance when working, because I did people favors and had done huge amounts of work for free. But in terms of how much I would like to take home, it would be enough to, I'd love to own my own home. I would love to be, have 3-4 months, expenses behind me and just be perfectly comfortable. So I guess that would be, at this stage, it would be $8,000 to $10,000 a month.
Okay. So, personal goals, and you know, I'm sure there's more that you would add here. Okay, you have kids, I imagine, because you mentioned school fees, right?
3 kids.
3 kids, okay, and a wife.
Yeah.
All right, great. So I assume you know month and growing. All right. Because once you start to get to there, you realize that you know you start to realize it's not as much as you thought it was, right? and and you don't. It doesn't have to be about the money. It just doesn't have to be about that. Okay, so now you want a branding agency doing top-notch work with world-class clients, bringing you $8,000 to $10,000 a month in personal income for yourself. Okay, which enables certain personal goals. It enables now. I don't know everything, obviously. I don't know exactly what you mean when you say branding agency doing top-notch work for world-class clients. We'd have to define that somewhat more clearly, more specifically, even if it is already clear to you. But what I assume is that this would actually get you excited. If you were doing this work and getting this as a back for yourself, you'd be excited.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, is any of this unrealistic? Did any of this
No.
fall into the fantasy? No, right? Okay, good. So we're not talking, you know, we're not talking about anything that you cannot have, even if it's more than you've done so far, but it's something you believe you should be able to achieve, you're just not quite sure how. All right. So let's see here. All right. By the way, I just want to invite anybody to add anything to the chat. All right. You know, there's a chat box if you want to add anything, ask any further questions, make any further comments. If you're listening or watching on Facebook, as right now a couple of you are, you can like it, share it, add a title, because I forgot to add a title before we started. So you can share what it is and let people know, and they can join us. And I'm curious to see what you'd say it is afterwards myself. So let's just, you know, let's be interactive. We've got about 30 plus people watching now. Let's interact. Okay. So the reason I emphasize the point that like this is something that excites you is because we all have the choice of waking up each morning and going after what we want, what excites us, or wake up in the morning and settling for what we think we can have. And of course, the latter really sucks the energy out of you. The former, going after what you want, is exciting. And it helps us, as long as we're focused on that, and we believe that we can achieve it, even if it's going to be, you know, if there can be some obstacles along the way, the more, you know, first of all, the better we feel. All right. So I'd say that the first thing is deciding that you're going to go after what you want, even though you don't know how. And right away, that decision, if you make it now or whenever you make it, that decision will eliminate or kind of answer a lot of the questions that you have. A lot of the decisions that you have, including should I pursue business locally or overseas, right? All these decisions, and I think you've had some others in an email you sent me earlier today. There's a bunch of different things that came up that it just paralyzes you when you have so many questions and so many decisions to make. And that's why I started off by asking the questions, like what are the decisions or the questions that we need to answer. Okay? So if you make this decision, that means you're not going to go after projects and clients that don't fit this.
Sure.
It also means that you're going to master the obstacles or recognize the obstacles, is that I do tend to do too much work for too little money and get paid too little. Okay, so and then the question is, what do you do? How do you deal with that? All right. So, all right. If your ideal client is a branding agency, now let me ask you this: does it matter to you if you can get this level work in South Africa or in the Middle East? Does it matter to you where the work is?
Not a great deal. I mean, I do love the Middle East. I love traveling. You know, it appeals to me to kind of be transcontinental, but not essential at all.
Okay, great. So then the question is, how would you define top-notch work, right? How do you define top-notch work? What does that actually look like? Tell us.
You know, I love working in industries and sectors that are innovative and leading edge, you know, things that are new. I love working on clients where they have real obstacles themselves that I'm able to overcome and to transform their marketing and the way that they appear and the way that they communicate. And to I think to make a tangible difference to people's companies, that's often the most exciting thing that I've in my career, the moments where I've launched campaigns or rebranded or done any of these sorts of tasks and seen real tangible benefits, growing companies, employees that are suddenly reinvigorated and excited about what they're doing. But also, the partnership, the sort of longer term relationship where you're assisting each step of the way and, helping them to see the potential that branding has in transforming their companies.
All right. Okay. So what we're starting to see here is some focus. All right. And, all right. Well, I'm just taking a look at the comments here. Just in the meantime, some people took the invitation to add comments, and I appreciate that. We got some good to be here. And Brent says, I think you should start a daily dove to pump up the thinking of your audience. All right. Thank you. Helena says, love the different energy in Blake's eyes compared to a few minutes ago. Okay. Blake, do you feel that? Yeah. Like from when you decide to go after what you want. Nick says, I think it's more important to define the client first, as it will dictate the type of work needed. Okay, I think we're working on that right now, actually. And Bradley says he's seen your work. He's the one who connected us. It's world-class. His ideas are fresh and achievable. And Brent says, what about partnering with agencies? Okay, we're getting to the tactical. Daily Dose is Michael Woodland, who's in Beijing, who's in our Force Multiplier program. Good to have you here, Michael, all the way from Beijing. I don't know what time it is by you, but good to have you. Okay, so let's keep going here. All right, so what we're looking for is you want to be doing this high-level branding agency work as opposed to some of the things that you told me you're doing now. We haven't talked before this, but you did send me a little bit of background via email. And James says the session is enlightening, loves it, excellent. If anyone is on Facebook, and go to facebook.com/dovgordon, and you can see it there. If you can like it and share it, that would be great. All right, so branding agency, doing top-notch work for world-class clients. Okay, innovative sectors and industries. So right now what we're seeing here, this is criteria. We're establishing certain criteria that will help you focus, right? Helping clients who have real obstacles themselves, okay? That means, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that, but we'll look at that in a moment. To make a tangible difference in people's companies, in other words, you want to be doing something that you're working on projects where you're going to notice some real difference. You gave examples, launching a campaign, and I mean, maybe you said something else that I missed, but like
rebranding, launching websites, whatever it is, the project that we've been involved in to assist them, occasionally you get one that really makes a huge difference.
All right. Long-term relationships. All right. Now, do you know, you've worked in the past, you said, right? You were an employee until recently, right?
Yeah. I mean,
so
15 years in the Middle East, and my last stint was close to 10 years in a single company. So I had no real intention of becoming a consultant. I was very much an ad man.
Okay, great. But when you talked about negotiating with clients, when was that? That was just in the last 3+ months?
No, as early as yesterday. I mean, I was negotiating with two potential clients yesterday. Turned one down, and one is still kind of brewing. But
okay, how much? Let me ask you this: do you know what you should be charging for these types of projects that you'd like to be doing? Do you know what you should be charging?
I mean, I have ballpark figures. In terms of what I used to do in the Middle East, I have a stronger idea of what things would realize over there. And having kind of found myself in this new economy, the scale is quite different. So I have a kind of hourly rate, and I have a day rate, and I have a sort of project rate, but none of it really kind of gels at the moment. I'm still trying to work out where I should be pitching it.
When you were working in as an employee in the agency you were working at, right? Do you know how they would charge for projects?
They used to say to me, whatever we believe the client can pay. They would say, if you're not laughing when you send the bill across, then you're not doing it right. It should be 30% more than you believe you can get. That's what my direct manager used to tell me.
Okay, fine. We're not going to go too deep into that. I'm just trying to understand if this is an obstacle, right? Because we're looking to undercome obstacles that you're going to need to deal with going forward. All right, so that's making a list. You've been doing too much for too little, been charging hourly, daily, to some degree project. I would suggest you go with value-based fees, which is something we help our clients develop. Let's see here. Now, okay, but these are issues that we'll have to deal with, either another time or we'll come back to it if we can. I just want to know that you understand that you have some concept of what to charge. All right. Now,
let me give you an example. I took a small job
mm-hmm.
from an individual in Qatar, and what they said to me was that we need you to restructure a whole lot of copy into presentations, which is not my idea of fun, but the money was good. It was going to be kind of 1,000 reals, which is 4,000 rand for a day's work. That's plenty. But it ended up being 5 days work, and they still weren't done. They were still sending me. Eventually, I just said, "Listen, guys, let's draw a line under it. Pay me the money. Here's your," and it became this big disputes and really kind of annoying and ugly. As a general rule, I mean, the clients that I have signed more recently, I've done a lot better job of more of a value-based quote, and got sign off on a couple of them quite recently. So that's very positive. But in terms of very often the scope just changes completely once you've agreed to do the work, and I've found myself doing 4 or 5 days work for every day that I've charged. That's more of the problem that I've faced.
Okay, and the good news is that's completely within your control.
Absolutely, and I'm getting better at it. I mean, yesterday I turned down someone who was trying to halve my daily rates and just refused to negotiate. So I rejected the work, which is almost the first for me.
It builds your confidence when you do that.
Absolutely.
All right, good. One of the best things that people do for their confidence is they turn down a bad client, even when they desperately need the money. And another thing that really builds confidence is when they invest in themselves to get the help they need, even when they don't feel they could afford it. Both of those, in my own experience and seeing others, those two things are big confidence boosters. It really builds your confidence because you're showing yourself that you're serious, you're committed, you're actually mean. You mean it when you say you're going after what you want. And that you value your work at a certain level, your contribution. And usually right after that, something good comes into place because you've just kind of, you've raised your own, vibrational level, so to speak, and your energy, and like is attract to like, and usually something good happens. So very good. All right. So branding agency, looking at this, right? So now this is something that they have real obstacles themselves. Let's now move into the problems they have and don't want, results they want and don't have, the results they want and don't have. What are some examples of problems that your ideal clients have and don't want, results they want and don't have? All right. I'm just going to stick that in here.
Okay, I guess the first point on that would be that it's difficult to define exactly who my ideal clients are. If I were to look at some of the consultation work that I've done with the Middle East, it's been with large agencies, and those can be, they can be good and bad. Generally speaking, they try and get more than their pound of flesh for the money they're willing to spend. But it's more schlock work. So I wouldn't call it.
Well, wait. We're going. See how we're going. Let me move us back to the focus. Right. The focus is right. If you had a great client and they're facing a real obstacle, right?
Sure.
And they're facing a real obstacle and they need some real help. What might those obstacles look like? What might they sound like? How would that great client describe it?
I'll give you three examples of sort of ideal clients that are signed on here. The first is a commodity. They are involved in a tanning dye. They've been around since 1920. They have absolutely no clue about branding or websites or brochures or anything like that. But there's been major inroads from competitors around the world, particularly from Brazil, and they've lost a huge amount of market share, and the market for their product is shrinking. So they found themselves squeezed into a very, very tight corner with their centenary coming. And so they approached me to come up with advertising concepts, with branding ideas. We've just done an exhibition stand for them in Hong Kong. So yes, that would be an example where they just a little bit kind of lost when it comes to marketing in general. Another company approached me for a product that I deliver, which is called a 7-day brand sprint. What I'm trying to do is give as much value as I can within 7 days in sectors where people generally can't afford expensive marketing or branding agencies. So the 7-day brand sprint was, the scope of that brand sprint was to try and resolve their branding problems and to try and, refresh the brand as there was a change in ownership of the company or change in leadership. But what happened was I ended up spending 7 days working on culture, because their culture is really was quite toxic. And I think it was the biggest impediment to realizing their vision for the brand. So instead of working on branding in that case, I ended up working on cultural issues. But culture is really a leading indicator of brand. So it's more or less the same thing. And then for a third client in fintech, I've been awarded the role of doing their websites. And I was supposed to be working with a coder, but it turns out the coder is no longer going to be with me, so I have to learn how to code. And so these are the sorts of things, I'll very often bite off more than I can chew, and get involved in areas where I should.
What? Wait, who is going to bring the coder?
There was a coder involved, but the coder can't Sorry.
Who brought the coder?
I bought the coder originally, but they're not willing to work on the platform that the client needs, so they declined. And they were kind of offering. Yes.
So why can't you just hire another one?
I could, but then I just thought, well, why not learn to do it myself and take a bigger slice of the pie, which is probably god awful advice. But my idea was
probably because it's almost certainly not the best use of your time on any level.
Sure, I agree with you there. But I often take on projects with the idea of learning something new. And there's a system called Webflow, which is a bit like Squarespace or whatever. It doesn't seem that difficult to put together a single page scrolling parallax website and keep the 10 grand for myself. So that's probably bad advice, but it's something that I've kind of done.
All right. It's I don't know how big. Okay, fine. I don't know how big, what kind of, how sophisticated that is, and how many hours of learning it is. But that's certainly something to if it was all right, that's certainly something to consider. The question is, what should you be doing? See, often we end up taking on work or doing parts of the job that we should not be doing simply because we're not clear about what we should be doing. Right. So if you were crystal clear about what you should be doing to lead the project to get more projects, then it would be an easy decision for you to say, well, for sure, I'm not doing this because I'll find someone else. I also there's always the excuse of it's good to learn more things. But the question, I have that problem too. I realized many years ago, I need to make a distinction between learning something because it's enjoyable versus learning something because now it is the missing piece in the next stage of my business, right? Okay, so I think you beat yourself up on that, and I don't want to dwell on that. But all right, so these are some examples of real obstacles that you would enjoy working with. Maybe the first one, right? The second one is not, I believe you didn't, about the culture, that's not really an example of what you would most want, right?
It's difficult to say, that I do love company culture, and I feel that company culture and brand are inextricably linked. So it's important to have a strong, I don't believe you can be a branding expert if you don't have at least some understanding. Okay.
Is this the kind of project you'd enjoy doing more of, where you'd say doing top-notch work for world-class clients?
Difficult. Probably not.
Okay,
Probably.
so then let's leave the culture as secondary. Okay, if it becomes a feature of what you do, not the main thing. It's something that's an extra skill set you're bringing when relevant.
Yeah.
Okay, so the main focus is problems where, a company is being squeezed out of the market. A company, for example, the problem that they have over here is that we were doing well for many years. The market has shifted, and we need to reimagine in some way how we talk about what we do, how we present what we do, our products, our services, completely rethink it.
Yes. I mean, I think that's a good example. One of the reasons why these are sort of less attractive than, say, the third one is that when the company is already in trouble, when they've left it too late, it can be less attractive than a company that's, that they're in a super exciting sector, and I can see the potential for huge growth rather than trying to turn everything around. That's the only distinction.
What did you say about the third one? That was an example of what?
It's a company in a very kind of high growth sector doing something pretty amazing in finance. They're in the kind of agri-tech, agricultural sector and the financial sector. Exciting work, and a real pleasure to work with the partners that I'm working with.
All right, good. So that's exciting, right? So doing a website is something that's exciting for you.
Working on the brand is something that excites me. The website, I mean, it's certainly a feature of something I have to be good at. It's something that's central to almost any company these days. And I enjoy concept and design and copy on the website, but coding is probably a mistake.
Okay. And what about design? What's your greatest strength? Your strongest skill set?
I would say copywriting and strategy, just general strategy. I've got a master's degree in marketing.
Master's degree was a long time ago, right?
No, 5 years ago. So,
okay, but that's what you enjoy. So you're really good at really enjoys good at strategy. How would you call that?
Yeah.
What kind of strategy?
Brand strategy.
What?
Brand strategy.
Brand.
BRAND, yeah.
What'd you say after brand?
Brand strategy, marketing strategy, to an extent digital, and copywriting, and then some design. All
right. Okay. So the interesting thing here is that when you're looking to grow this new firm of yours, whether it's going to be just you and maybe some outsourcers or more, whatever you decide to turn it into, there's two ways that you can approach things. There's being another pair of hands. Right? You can just be another pair of hands that's doing the website, or you can take, there's the doer or the designer, right? And if you're focusing on being the designer, that's a much higher value.
Sure.
Right? Let's see here. Okay. So I want to go back to the basic question. What are the problems you're helping solve, results that you're enabling? All right. And I only really got one answer to that, one clear answer so far, and that is the first one, right? And basically, it means our sales were tanking Sales were tanking. We needed a new way of thinking about what we were doing. Okay. So the problem is sales dropping. What changes in the market are requiring us to make changes in how we market. Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
What other problems can you help solve? Results can you enable?
I guess, I mean, one of the kind of things I tell my clients is that I help them make their awesomeness obvious, which is a little bit cheesy, but it's about transforming the way the company looks to really appeal to the people that they're talking to. So what I try to do is to put a better looking message, a better looking company in front of the people that matter the most. That's really how I would define.
Right. So what? And what does that do for them, for the client?
I guess the longer term strategy of brand building is that you build a moat around the company. You give them an unassailable competitive advantage that lasts over many years and ultimately, like Coca-Cola, becomes completely impossible to cross. But it's something that rather than say AdWords or digital marketing in that sense, where you're doing very hardcore direct sales, it's the softer side. So it's developing a language for the company, developing a look and feel for the company, developing an internal culture for the company that energizes them and helps them to realize their full potential as a company.
So long term, or even short term and long term, or immediate term and long term, right? What you're doing is you're helping you're helping to make sales easy and consistent.
Absolutely, yes. Building loyalty with the customers.
There's a difference between building loyalty and saying that we help help companies make sales flow more easily and more consistently.
Yeah, no, you're right. There certainly is a longer term revenue advantage, and it can be even a short term revenue advantage, but it's not the same as say kind of generating leads. That's the only distinction.
It's not the same as what?
Generating leads.
I understand. Okay.
But I would agree with that statement.
All right. So in other words, so a client that is forced to adapt to changes in the market, right? You're helping them regain the advantage, so others are forced to adapt to them.
Sure. And I would say that perhaps the greatest problem result that I do is to help people formulate an idea of their company that they don't currently have, and to encapsulate that in how can I say this? To give people a stronger idea of what it is that they're doing. To give them a sense of an orientation. One of the ways that we do that is say through Jungian archetypes. We give them a sense that your company is a hero.
Okay, let me ask you a question, right? How will they know? Right. I want to drill this down here. So you're saying that you can help them get a greater sense of what their company is about, what they're doing, what their company is about, etc. Correct?
Sure. Yes.
And what are they experiencing now that they want to be experiencing, and what will they experience that in the future that they're not experiencing now? The same question, two directions.
Okay, I guess the part of the theory is that very often when a company is communicating incorrectly, they're communicating what it is that they do or what it is that they sell, rather than getting to the why of their business. So to get it to a higher echelon, where, for example, a company that was financing bicycles.
Okay. I'm just going to jump in, right?
Sure.
what will be different when they are, what will be observably different when they are better at communicating the why rather than what they do? Will be
I think
observably different.
I think what it will do is attract a class and a class of customer that they didn't have before. So it would be bringing on board a range of people that they perhaps weren't even aware were there. But through storytelling, through beautiful imagery, through stronger messaging, through getting to their real value proposition, you start to give a sense of how the company makes you feel rather than what the company does.
Okay, so here we're saying they can attract a class of customer who weren't noticing them before. So, not exactly the way you said it, was close, so happy to correct it. All right. What does your ideal client believe will enable them? Do they know these class of customers? Do they know that they exist?
Yes, I mean, with the example that I was mentioning there is that they knew, for example, that there were thousands of people who were financing bicycles, high-end mountain bikes and these sort of things, but they weren't financing it through their company. And so, through a process of storytelling, through a process of content marketing, through a process of, using video, transforming the value proposition on their website, making it about a culture of bicycles, a culture of mountain biking, a culture of people who are inspired about mountain biking, rather than fill in your details here and we'll tell you if you kind of qualify or not.
Let me ask you this: what does your ideal client believe is causing their difficulty in reaching that higher class in customers currently? Like, what do they believe is the cause of their existing difficulty in reaching that higher class of customers?
I mean, I guess most people would say to you that they're not good at marketing, or that they put the website together themselves. They've put together bits and pieces of a strategy, but there's no cohesion. There's no real core message. There's no there's no traction being felt in the market, and they know that their brand could be a lot more powerful. They know that what they have at the essence of their business is really strong, but they're not finding a way to fully realize that or express it.
Okay. Now, is this something you've heard from clients that you've done, that you've enjoyed working with, that there's, we don't have any real cohesion to Absolutely. The various marketing we're doing? Okay, good.
Well, for example, that commodity company that I referred to, they all of their technical specs and the sort of thing were in dog-eared, spiral-bound, photocopied pages and that sort of thing. There was nothing kind of appealing, because they believed they were in a commodity. They didn't need to do advertising or marketing. And once you sort of lift the curtain and show them what's possible, the lights come on and they get really excited about what you.
But they were looking for something, right? They found you because they were looking for something, right?
Yeah. I mean, they painted themselves into a corner in a way. I think that they were kind of running out of options, and they needed to get back to where they were.
What did they believe they needed?
I mean, I believe that they have an idea that they just need better collateral. They need, better design brochures, better kind of looking aspects of their websites, possibly a bit of packaging refresh and that kind of thing. But what was really lacking was any powerful concepts for their advertising, any, really kind of noticeable way of marketing. And that's where I've helped them.
Okay. And they found you. I don't know how they found you. They'll leave that for now. But they found you because they believed that the cause of their slipping sales drop had to do with, like you said, I think I'm just making sure I understood you, their collateral wasn't good enough. Right? Yeah. But that was like the layman looking for a solution. But as soon as they met you and you asked them some good questions or helped them see that it's probably much deeper than that, they got it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it was more a case of they saw what their competitors were doing, and they realized that they were miles behind, in terms of websites, in terms of everything that they had. And trade fairs and exhibitions, they realized that they were lagging quite sorely behind and losing market share as a result.
Okay. All right, got it. So look, we can definitely go further on this, but I want to stop and pause for now, okay? Because if you're looking to work with branding agencies, right, doing top-notch work for, I'm sorry, you want a branding agency doing top-notch work for clients in innovative sectors and industries, okay? Now, I've heard two angles from you. I've heard those who are kind of, they've seen sales sliding, and those who are relatively new, doing new things, who want to create a moat, so to speak, around what they're doing, like the fintech company. Did I follow?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Now, from all those, I imagine this is more exciting for you, although it depends on, if this company can afford you, then that's also fine, right?
Yeah, I mean, both are fine. Both are great.
Both are great. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So if we were to now give your company focus, right? Let's say what is it that you do? Okay, what does Blake's company does, right? And this may not be fully polished, but this is where I can see you're getting somewhere. The problem that you help solve, the result that you enable. One second. All right, let's see where this takes us. All right, this is rough. We're working on this. Work in progress. Let's see here. 1 second. Sales dropping, changes in the market requires to make changes in how we market. Sales flow more easily.
I think the way that I would define it is perhaps I help companies that struggle to communicate what makes them amazing in a way that's again it's vague and you can
Yeah, no, we're hold. Okay, trying to consequences we weren't noticing before. This is not. I'm not there yet. Not there yet. Again, consequences we weren't noticing them before. Companies have seen sales that.
If I go back to that line that I shared with you in the email, that we help companies to discover their simple truth, and I know that again that's like
the problem with that. What I think is weak on that is that it doesn't instantly mean the same thing to everybody who's going to read it, and it's not instantly clear what it means at all.
No,
right?
No.
So look, here's. All right, let's work this through. What I'm trying to get at is you're helping, if you're talking to companies who feel that we need, we need to, are you talking to companies that they know it sounds like you're talking to companies that know there's a need for branding. Okay, so you're not trying to come and talk to them. If we think of it as a flow, a river, so to speak, we're not trying to talk to people that don't have a sense that they need branding, right? So they're coming looking for some kind of strategic branding. That's what they're really looking for. They may or may not fully understand what that means. And that's an important piece because many companies may not be looking for that. And you're not really talking to them at this point, right?
Well,
because that's another challenge. And that's further upstream. Yeah?
Yeah. The challenge that I face is that there is a huge gap between what people understand of branding, which is to have your logo redone or to change the colors, and the real essence of branding, which is to look at the opportunity, to look at a big idea, to look at how we can tell that as a brand story or develop more of a purpose, and then to kind of structure the company according to best practice with vision, mission, values, and live those values. Then it comes down to kind of value propositions and positioning statements and whatever else is required.
What about something like this? Okay, we're not quite there yet either, but still, I help companies who are looking to rebrand beyond mere image to where their brand and what they stand for, or just their brand, causes sales to flow easily and consistently.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Agree with what?
Yes, I agree with the idea of companies who are looking to rebrand beyond mere image. The only kind of issue there is that most of these companies don't see branding as the solution to their problems. They see.
So that's what I asked you a few minutes ago, because that's important, right? What do they believe is causing their problem? Right, and you told me no cohesion in the various marketing activities they're doing, and that client had come to you looking for better marketing collateral, right?
Yeah, as an example, the fintech website, I was replacing another company that didn't manage to deliver the site over a 6-month period, and I'm going to deliver it within a 3-week to 1 month period. At a world-class level, I know that the standard of site will follow, the very best sites out there. So it's a matter of doing a lot of research, understanding what best practices globally and trying to get their company to conform to that. I also believe that the strategies that I come up with have to be divisive. If they're if everyone's happy and safe and coddled by the strategy, then it's wrong. So I come up with, so okay. For an example, yeah.
Meaning if everybody in the company is happy, then it's not going to work.
It's not going to work. And strategies need to make you feel a little bit kind of, they need to make the eyes widen a little bit. Otherwise.
Okay, fine. But that's kind of later on. That's the goal of what we're doing here is to focus when you talk, it's just for you to get the attention and interest of ideal clients. Just like if just the very beginning, like what do you do? Because you came to me and you said, I'm all over the place, right? There's so much I could be doing. I need some focus, right? So we just want to focus on what can you, on how could you start talking about what you do in a way that gets the attention and interest of your ideal client, which is companies looking for a top-notch project. Like they have a top-notch project, really, that relates to you bringing some kind of branding. Now, the important question, and that's why I asked this before, right? They feel like there's what do they feel is missing? No cohesion in the various market activities, and also are they looking for branding? Like that's an important question, and there's no answer that's going to cover every single great client. So, okay. But like that's the thing. Like we have to look at and say, if I were to pick a direction, right? What is it? What?
Bradley says to me to discuss my brand sprint, and that was kind of one of the cornerstone ideas. But and I've sold a couple, but not sold as many as I want to, and I'm not sure it's the direction that I want to go in. But I'll explain to you what the concept of the brand sprint is. The brand
You did
sprint
before.
Sorry?
Is it more than what you said before?
A little bit. So
Okay.
it was developed by Google, but the idea is to add value to a client's business in as much, as much value as is possible in the shortest possible time. And that's to help them to realize a number of different things where they will be communicating on the level of what it is we do and what it is we sell, and to take them into more of a values-based, more of a vision-based, extend the shadow of the future, to start delivering something that excites them, something that I believe that when companies are working on the basis of values, that will filter down throughout the company. People will start to feel inspired by who it is that they're working for, and it just ultimately gives them a world-class surface. What their customers see is no longer the kind of, the bland little, financier company down the road, but a company that looks 4 or 5 times the size that it did before, something that has, a look and feel that really puts them alongside anything you'd see out of Silicon Valley, and is speaking in a very simplistic and clear way.
I understand. Got that. The thing, all of that is like the next step, right? You got to get their attention and interest first, and you need to have a focus for yourself. So all of what you're talking about is all good. It's the next step to what I'm trying. I just want to get to a simple, clear message for you. Simple, clear that gives you focus and makes it clear. So I'm not taking away from any of that. We can come back to that, but let me try one more. Let's try this, right? Because
if I were to give you a line, it would be something in the line. I help companies to speak more clearly.
One second.
That speaks more clearly. Okay. You.
Speak more clearly. Yeah, go on. I didn't write that down. I just want to know what you're getting at. Yeah.
So I help companies to speak their truth more clearly, to look at a quality that they didn't believe was attainable, and to start to attract the sort of customers and clients that they dream of having. Okay,
the speak more clearly is the kind of statement that I would want to say, okay, and how would they know that they're speaking more clearly? What would be different once they're speaking more clearly?
For example, the website that I'm doing, there was no real value proposition in all of the copy that existed on the website that didn't make it. So, what I've done is put the value proposition up front in 3 different components, and that would make their target audience, who are farmers, instantly understand how these guys would transform their cash flow problems, for example. So it's about putting that, helping the company to not only define what their value is, but also to communicate it in a way that a farmer will stop and say, this is not the website that I saw a couple of weeks back, and I really want these guys to be my cash flow partner.
So notice what you did there is you helped a company make it instantly clear to their ideal customer.
Absolutely.
How they can help. They can help and why they should call, let's say.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Does this sound like what you do? Like, I help companies build a brand that makes it instantly clear to customers how you help and why they should call.
I think that's pretty strong.
Again, I don't think we're 100% there, but we have a focus now.
Yeah.
All right. What do you feel?
I think that's something that I get called about a lot. Is to when a person has a business concept, for example, and this is just as an aside, but when a person has an idea for a fish and chips shop, or they have an idea for a shoe brand, they have an idea for something, they'll send me bits and pieces of their idea, and I will help them distill that, tell them how they need to communicate it, tell them what makes it special, and then put it into a smashing presentation that they can put in front of an investor. And that's why I think this is very close. But it's really about kind of creating a package out of a company, creating something that's super appealing out of a company, bringing their awesomeness to the fore.
Right. Is that what people come and ask? And maybe they do. Do they come and say, help us bring our awesomeness to the fore? No, right. But I suspect that what they say is something more like this. How do we make it instantly clear who our customer is and how we can help them, and so that they should call us or want to buy from us or want to invest with us?
Yeah.
You're smiling a little bit, but again, I don't know that we're 100% there, but do you feel like we made some progress?
Yes, I think the fact that the idea that what I do is clarifying. That I make it. I try and bring muddle and clarify it.
It's not just about branding. It makes it clear that it's not just about the imagery.
Sure. No, it's not. It's about concepts.
All right. So I help companies build a brand that makes it instantly clear. You could just leave it at that. How you help, and why the customers should call or buy. I mean, you can play with it, right? But now let's take this, okay? Let's take this and put it together over here. All right. All right. So you want to have a branding agency where you're doing top-notch work for world-class clients, innovative sectors. You're helping them deal with real obstacles. We talked about what some of these things mean to make tangible difference in their companies and their people, and have a long-term relationship. Does this describe? I help companies build a brand that makes it instantly clear to their customers how you help and why they should call you or why they should buy. Does this do you think you can go out to your ideal clients and talk about what you do with this type of message?
I think so. I think that's pretty close. I can certainly finesse it, but I get the point. Right. I get what I've been missing.
That's exactly. So what do you get? What is the point? Say it in your words.
The fact that I've probably been orienting my communication, or I haven't really communicated in the past 3 months. I've got sufficient interest, but if I were to communicate, I would be doing it in a way that doesn't really see how I solve the customer's problem, my ideal client's problem. So when you talk about brand or you talk about these things, very often you lose them. And my elevator pitch, when people ask me what it is that I do, I say I help companies communicate, and that's about as broad a statement as you can possibly find. But I haven't been able to give an elevator pitch because I don't know what to say.
Could you feel confident saying this, or some version? Obviously you'll iterate, but because you have to be comfortable, being the messenger of your message. And when you are, then your ideal clients pick up on that confidence and your own clarity, and they're drawn to you, right? If everyone else is talking about branding or whatever, or corporate communication or whatever it is that everybody's talking about, and you're making it that much clearer, that's instantly communicating to your ideal client that you understand them at a deeper level.
Yeah. Yes. And I think that's a lot closer than I've come to kind of defining my sort of value proposition.
Let's look at and now what this also helps you. This little combination here helps you sit down and you could say, oh, what are my criteria, or looking, whether you're looking locally or overseas for potential clients. You're looking for projects where you're going to be involved in the strategic level, not just perhaps just a website, right?
Yeah.
I'm not just saying you wouldn't take on a smaller project if you need the cash and you're able to do it, you have the time. But at the same time, you're balancing long-term and short-term, and you got to focus on where you're headed. So where you're headed is projects that are worth at least what, let's say in dollars?
In dollars.
This type of project where you're really helping formulate the messaging, the strategic thinking, the messaging, right? Where you're going to enter a fray in the company as you described, and there's going to be some conflict as to whether what you're proposing is the right thing, right? As there probably is in the comments. I haven't been able to catch up about what we're talking about, but that's fine, right? There's different opinions, and that's fine, right? So, what's the value of such a project? Are we talking? $15,000, $50,000, $150,000?
Whenever you talk dollars, I have to transform it into reals and then from reals into rands. But it would be
Let's go from dollars. What?
$4,000 to $5,000. I'm thinking is round about the kind of the projects that I'm really proud to be working on. You know, it's sort of a month scope, and it wouldn't be anything close to my full capacity. It would be, you know, probably 8 or 10 hours a week over a month for $5,000. I mean, that's kind of the way I'm.
Okay, and all right, so you're not necessarily dealing with a very large company then, I imagine.
No. Most of them are SMEs in this region. The reason why I mention the Middle East is that you have some very, very big corporates where dropping, you know, $60,000 or $70,000 on a branding project wouldn't make them blink. But out here, you're talking more on the sort of $4,000 to $5,000.
Okay, but we're not limiting ourselves to South Africa where you are.
No.
We're not limiting ourselves, right? We're asking, what do you want to be doing? Because you know, if you were charging, or let me ask you, what would it take for you to charge $25,000 for a project?
I think then, you know, part of the limitation there is that you're generally going up to a corporate level where projects are a lot more complex. You're talking about, you know, large companies who have, you know, multiple divisions, and branding becomes quite a complex issue there. What I'd prefer to focus on, certainly in the meanwhile, is smaller companies where I can make that instant difference. So, you know, I say to them, A, B, and C is required. We do A, B, and C, and suddenly they
okay.
You know.
So let me just kind of so then there's for now, and then there's what you might want to consider for the future. Because I never come and tell someone what they should want, right? I'm simply pointing out that if your goal was to get to $8,000 to $10,000 a month for yourself, you get there rapidly if you had, you know, maybe 4 to 6 projects in the $25,000 range per year.
Absolutely.
Right? And the question for you to think about, and we're not going to get into it now, is like, why do you think you can't do that? And, you know, take it even further. If it was 35 to 40, my sense is you're capable of those projects.
Absolutely. No, you know, I mean, the project that I was supposed to join in Saudi Arabia was a massive tourism project, $5 billion thing. And the agency I was going to be representing was 5 people, and they were taking, you know, in the region of $3 million for that. So, you know, the numbers are big.
Okay. So, but when it comes to pricing, there's a number of factors involved, and a key factor is your own confidence level. So you know, if you're telling me that right for now, you're confident or you're comfortable going after small businesses that the business themselves might be $500,000 to $2 or $3 million. I'm using dollars because I don't really have a concept of reals, and rands. I think it's like 12 or 14 to the dollar, or that's what?
14 to the dollar.
14. Okay. But I still not quite sure how that works out in purchasing power. But but my point is, if that's where you're comfortable, then fine. Now the question is, I imagine that this message would appeal to those types of businesses.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay, good. It would appeal to larger companies too. So then for yourself now your target going forward for the next, you know, let's say 6 to 12 months is, it sounds like what you'd like to, you know, I would challenge you to push that $5,000 project limit up a bit. You know, make yourself a little bit uncomfortable. It shouldn't be too far that you're like, you know, that you're paralyzed, but like, what is you know, stepping backwards and really thinking about, like, you know, who is the client that would comfortably pay you 10 and you would comfortably sell it? Okay. And then, like, you start to think about that, Because again, it's not much harder to sell a $10,000 branding project than it is to sell a $5,000 branding project. And then you need 10 clients a year and you've got what you want. You're paying out a little bit on the side for some help, but you basically hit your goals that way.
Yeah. No,
right?
I'm very confident that I can hit my goals, and I've worked on some monster projects, in my corporate capacity, and I'm not intimidated or afraid of large projects, because I know the value that I deliver. And as a rule, I mean, not to blow my own horn, but while in Qatar, those projects would be led and delivered almost entirely by myself.
Great.
So it's not a.
I'm not hearing any fear from you in terms of the project. It's just in terms of landing the client, and then making sure they don't take advantage of you.
I think the biggest, the barrier is simply the fact that large clients, large corporates are tough things to deal with on the soft side of things. When you're dealing with marketing, when you're dealing with culture,
Okay.
you show them the way forward, but they don't go that way. They're just obstinate.
Right. Let's leave this for now. Okay. What are you taking from today's session?
Well, I've it's resolved a lot of issues for me. The fact that I've got to make my proposition more client focused, and to put something into words that they can easily understand and take in, and to create a promise that I can put forward that they just get, and that's what I've really struggled to do.
Okay, good. What else?
That I shouldn't limit myself, to smaller projects, and that I shouldn't kind of, take less than I'm worth, I guess, in terms of what I get paid.
All right, what else?
I guess it would be to stick to the knitting, not take on coding, not take on parts of the project that I'm not an expert at.
What else?
That I haven't really defined my ideal clients.
You're closer now, right?
Much closer, yes.
Prior to this conversation, right? It's now clearer?
Absolutely.
Okay, what else?
Yeah, just to have kind of bigger ambitions as well, to go after the people that I'm capable of serving.
What then how, right? Okay, good. I'll add something, but tell me if it's valid, because also you shouldn't be paralyzed or wondering whether you should go after clients locally in South Africa or in the Gulf. It's no longer really a factor, because it's no longer even limited to those two locations necessarily.
Absolutely. No, that's
now,
also
the next step you'll have to think about is, okay, what I do need a simple process for reaching out and getting clients. Like, okay, now how am I going to create a list, or who am I going to target? That's the next step, is developing this simple plan. Today we worked on some of your own strategy and direction and messaging.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. So it's also important to understand what's next, as well as some other obstacles. And so I would say that's the next step, is you need to find a clear plan for yourself. All right. But for the reason, what I'm pointing out is that it shouldn't be, the question of should I go after clients here or there? It's about you going after certain types of projects. If they're here and they can pay your minimum plus, great. If they're there and they can pay your minimum plus, great.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think one of the big problems that I face and is that when it comes to branding and these sorts of disciplines, it's very labor and intellectually intensive. You know, what the client sees at the end of it might be 2 paragraphs on a page, but could have taken you, a week to formulate. So I have quite limited bandwidth, and that's where I'm struggling. Is that I've got people who want to do business, but I find, doing schlock work where I end up just, hours and hours and hours and hours for very little payoff, versus clients that potentially have big payoff, but my bandwidth is just being not focused enough, and I think that's my major challenge at the moment.
Okay, so again, those are all issues that you got to tackle, and you need to work with clients who understand what you're actually bringing. And that's part of the marketing and sales process, where you recognize and you say, look, they need to understand that coming up with a single sentence like we did is the result of not just the time putting into it, but the tens of years of practice and experience, right? Absolutely. And as part of the conversation, the first conversation you'd have with them is like, all right, now I need to understand. Look, I'm looking to work with clients who value certain things. And recognize what's really involved in hitting these objectives that we've laid out. All right. These are certain things that I think we both need to understand and agree to, A, B, C, and discuss it. Have that conversation.
Absolutely.
All right. We're kind of way over time, what I thought we would be, but I do want to just mention few things. First of all, you can press the raise your hand button if you'd like, if there's something you'd want to add. If there's something you want to add or say, that would be, or a question you want to ask, there's a hand raising button. You can press that and I'll go look and see if anybody has raised their hands. We do have a hand raised. But also I just want to say that we just started a force to be reckoned with. This is actually the wrong dates. I have to replace it still a couple of days ago. And if anybody wants to join, we got one spot left, dovgordon.net/force. If you have a look at that page, lots of testimonials, some great individual attention, and you're certainly welcome to go and grab that last spot. If you have any questions, you can email me, dovgordon@dovgordon.net, or reach out to me. So we have Susan. I'm just going to allow Susan to talk. You're now on the line with us, Susan. Go ahead, Susan.
Great. So this was really a wonderful experience, I think, for all of us watching. I hope it was for Blake. What came to mind is that Blake sounds like he is really excellent at helping other people clarify what they want, but maybe not so much for himself. And that seems to me to be a very common phenomena, where he could have conducted this probably conversation with someone else, but it's really hard to do it with yourself, which is why coaching can be helpful. So thanks. That's it.
Absolutely. And that's, like I could think of a couple of people in our current group right now. Like one of the people in our group is a marketing strategy master. He's worked with Jay Abraham, helping Jay generate $5 million on a certain project and so on. Like he's worked directly, and he's working with us in this program right now because he needs some help. He's got to get out of his own head. And that's what we opened up with. And I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, we all need to get out of our own heads. Okay. If anyone else wants to ask a question or make a comment, you can press raise your hand or just say something in the chat box and I'll know that. Let's see here. Does Blake take a monkey's paw from his clients? Blake, is that I don't know what he's talking about. Do you?
Paw. I mean, a monkey's paw is.
Oh, monkey's paw. Okay, I was thinking maybe it was spelled correctly. Monkey's paw. Yeah, go.
Where the finger curls. I'm not sure what the business reference is, but I know the literary one.
All right, Bart, you want to explain? And I'm going because we're over time. Last chance. Percentage of the fee up front. Oh, definitely get paid up front. Do you get paid up front, Blake?
I've learned the hard way. I am now, only in recent months. I'm still waiting for several payments where I didn't do the same.
All right, 50% at start and the rest tied to certain dates, not to deliverables, because you can often get stuck waiting for them. So your agreement should be clear, spelled out, 50% at start, and then if you want to break it up, then it has to be tied to a specific date, irregardless of anything else. All right, very good, everybody. Thanks for joining us. And I'll look over the comments later. I didn't get to catch all of them, but I appreciate that. And Leanne, bye. All right, thank you, Blake. I appreciate your willingness to do this and to make it something that all of us could learn from. And stay in touch. Hopefully, know how it works out.
Will do. All right.
All right. Bye. Bye.
Bye.